Welcome to Drinks Coach, Series 3. Still in Cambridge, and I've still got a very, very sore throat. Doing this one because I just need something slaking and softening for the old throat. So I'm doing another one. I'm just want something to take the pain away. Yes, you are watching the Drinks Coach UK. You can get to me through social media, ask me any questions, or suggest new channels or shows or whatever on all lowercase Drinks Coach UK or Vinesack, Vinesack. Cough, cough, cough. Right. There's been quite a lot of chatter from me online. You might have seen it, and I did a little montage of some of my friends and friendly colleagues going to Calais recently. I went on a booze cruise. That's right. How very, very 90s. Um, but I went there for a couple of reasons. First of all, because I hadn't been for a very long time. I remembered how much fun I always have doing it. It's always nice to see a different perspective on things. And frankly, 90% of all the pleasure I get out of going abroad is going to foreign supermarkets. So Calais is like it's like having a Disneyland on our doorstep, as far as I'm concerned. And of course, the French take care over their cheeses and their sausages and stuff. So if you could just find a place that had the most amazing range of spirits, wines, of other drinks. There also was an affineur of great cheeses and salamis and good bread products. Um, then you could just come off the ferry, couldn't you? And then you could just park up and do like an hour's shopping and go back on the same ferry and with a big grand smile on your face. But people are saying, well, why are we doing this now? I mean, we left the European Union. Isn't this a complete kind of moot point? Well, there's been a bit of confusion from when I read the replies to some of the posts that I put on Facebook and Instagram. So I thought I should clear things up straight away. First of all, if you're an independent and you're an enthusiast and you're on your own, maybe you've got a partner and you both love wine and food, you love the idea of traveling and being in France, just being in that different culture, food culture and the music and the architecture and people used to slag off Calais. Could never really understand why. I mean, they've got Rodins, they've got 12th century churches. It's a beautiful town, and it's certainly been polished up enormously over the last 30 odd years since the single market opened up in 1992. And after we decided to leave the European Union and the free trade market, their businesses suffered, of course. And I have a very good friend, Jerome Paul, and his business partner, Olivier, and my brother, one of my best friends in the world, Nico Thiriot, who was a buyer at Sainsbury's. His father and he were both involved in the chain of commerce in Calais. Um, and he was responsible for opening that first Sainsbury's shop in Calais back in the 90s, which made tens of millions of pounds, just churned money. When everyone realised what an absolute deal it was, when we could go in the single market and buy wine for cheap. Now, people kind of slowly forgot about all that, strangely, but it was still doing a huge amount of money. The store, Calais-Vins, is called Calais-Vins. And also there's OlivierVins of OlivierVins, which is his friend, which is by the other terminal as a old passenger terminal for the Eurostar, and Fretune. And we decided to see whether going on a cruise to Calais for a day, or maybe doing an overnighter, was worth it. Now, how we defined what worth it meant, we left completely open. We were very, very broad-minded and free-thinking about it. I've invited my very good journalist and young enthusiast Louis Tomless from the drinks business to come too, and a few other friends. And basically, the plan was to go over, have a look at the couple of shops, look at the huge range and very strange and obscure range in some cases of things that they offer, some of which I've been posting recently, which I think has generated quite a lot of interest, really. But also to see whether the experience in itself was worth doing, whether it was either an experience which you'd, even if you weren't making any money, you think, well, that was a really lovely day out. We bought some stuff we couldn't buy here, and we managed to rub our shoulders up against some foodie French people in a nice restaurant overlooking the harbour and ate some beautiful food, considerably less expensive than necessarily might have been in London, for example, for the same quality. And that was the whole plan. So that's what we did. We went over there on the boat. We went to see Calais-Vins, then we went out for dinner. The next morning, we went to OlivierVins, and we all drove home. Now, what are the advantages to this? Well, even though we're no longer in the European Union, we're all entitled to still bring back 24 bottles of wine each. That's 4 cases of 6. And we're also allowed to bring back about, well, 4 litres, I think it is, specifically. And you shouldn't be a milliliter over that, though, I have to pay duty on everything. I think it's 4 litres of spirits, which is basically, let's call it a box of 6, which is 4.2, but I'd be careful with that. That's all completely duty free. Also, if you spend more than about €150 and you either store, the Calais-Vins store or the OlivierVins store, you give them your bill of lading of the wines that you've bought, and they will go online and register it at the port as a duty-free purchase. So that when you drive to the boat, there's a tiny little left turn where you go to this building, which is not even manned half the time, but has these barcode readers inside. You just put your barcode, your QR code underneath, and it goes blip. So they know you've left the country because you're already on some like international water side by then, which is all the evidence they need. You go home, and then in about 3 days' time, you get your service charge back. You get your VAT back, which is about once you paid this, like the service charge, the processing charge, is a full chunky 15% off whatever you paid. So if you don't go outside that limit of 24 bottles and your 4 litres of spirits or the equivalent in fortified wines, sherries, and ports, and you can mix those up, then you can just sort of sail in, sail out, buy some really nice, interesting stuff, say enough wine to make a very, very interesting Christmas week, let's say. And remember, that's the entitlement for every person involved. And if they can all show that they've paid receipts independently, it's perfectly legitimate. Somebody said to me, that's the limit per car. And that's absolute bullshit. I've looked up everywhere else. That's just not true. Especially on the fact that we actually were pulled over and stopped, and there was 4 people in our car, and we had 4 times the single person's allowance, and they just waved us through. So that it is still, obviously they have to police it, and it is, we are a third country now, and it's not as easy to wander in and out as it was. But that in of itself already provides a situation where if you've spent enough money, you get about 15% off, which you already paid for a hotel overnight or a dinner or a really nice fancy lunch when you're there, and you're still getting better value on the wines you bought if you shop carefully. Now, you can actually go and take it a bit further than that, because as I'm about to show you, there are some exceptional value for money wines there. And if you actually spend, let's say, up to €1,000, when you go through the I've declared my drinks channel, when you get to the boat and say, I'd like to declare this, but I spent this much, here's my receipts, then they will charge you the duty on the drink, but you still get your VAT back. Okay, so you still get your discount. They will charge you duty on the wine. And with Rishi Sunak's present in February, where things are going to go up quite sizably, that might be £3 a bottle. That might be quite a heft to start with. But as I'll show you, there's still a vast discount to be had on certain styles of wine, which are frankly sold for a lot less money in France than they are in the UK. And I don't really know why. So without further ado, we'll open one bottle just because I'm really thirsty and croaky. But I hope Jerome's enjoying watching this. Salut Jerome, salut Olivier, salut Nico. And this is a wine from Valençay. Now, Valençay, look at that. It's a very handsome bottle, don't you think? Be happy on anybody's table. Very fancy looking bottle. Oh, this is the only one I didn't bother checking the price on. I know I didn't remember the price. Valençay is from the Berry, from the centre of France, right in the dead centre. So France is like a box. Right in the centre, you've got the Loire River, starts just south of dead centre in the Auvergne, and then heads down the mountains, which is north, to the centre, and then gets diverted and kicks off to the Atlantic. So it's like a clock reading 6:15, basically. And Valençay is right at that kink, or is what is at that kink is Sancerre, Puy-Fumé, Menetou-Salon, Reuilly, so I'm about to have forgotten one of mine, Quincy, and Valençay is one of those, and Chevigny. And these wines are unique. The Valençay and Chevigny, certainly, are unique in this region. They're not made from 100% Sauvignon Blanc, but they're allowed a little kiss of Chardonnay, about 10% Chardonnay, which makes the wines delicious. It makes them a bit more versatile. They're not just a one-trick pony, as Sauvignon Blanc can so often be. And Sauvignon Blanc is lovely as a food wine. It does fit a lot of slots that other wines won't touch. But having that extra body of yellow peach and nectarine fruit underneath makes, I think, Valençay even better value at the entry level in this region. So if you like your premium Sauvignon Blancs. You like your even if you like your New Zealand Sauvignon Blancs, this is the wine that I would have recommended you buy if we were in that store in France looking for an EU-based wine which would do the trick. So I'm going to pour some now. Um, if you take a shop that's always specialised in good Loire whites, let's say something like Majestic or one of the actual specialists like Yap Brothers, um, Loire wines have very, very slowly but inexorably gone up in price. I remember when I was an Oppins manager, it's a long time now, a long time ago, about 1992, and we'd have floor stacks of Sancerre to sell from good producers for about £5.99, £6.99. Those wines, if it was £6.99, probably superannuated to over £20 now. I'd say £21.99 for those producers. Um, let's have a look at this. It's got some colour to it, very pale straw, but it looks like a Sauvignon-based wine would. Oh God, I just remembered how much I loved this when Olivier poured me a glass in his shop. This wine has a ripe nose, 2023. The nose smells of like pebbles in a stream, kind of stony, slightly stoniness. But over that is this lovely smell of white peach, um, maybe apricot, certainly green gage, green plum. But it's got a lovely kind of orchard-like, ripe orchard-like fruit to it, succulent. So when you drink it, you've got an almost green gagey, nectarine texture to the wine. You can almost, I would love to put slices in there and just eat it out again. You can almost feel the thickness of the fruit in there. It's still racy and quaffable on its own, absolutely smashing with any kind of um, local fish, which would be fresh fish, maybe some eel from the Loire or anything else, some Zander or something like that. Excuse me. Pardon me. So very, very nice wine. How much would you pay for something like that? Well, I paid for this in their shop. I think it was €7.20. That's right, folks. €7.20. That's about 6.5 quid. Um, I don't know what else to say. Proper French winemaking, family-owned producer, very high quality. Um, the only one I could find that was similarly made in this country. It's a slight upgrade for the same as the States. Sorry. Excuse me. Turn this off. I'll be back with you in a minute. Right, I've got control of my bodily functions again. Sorry about that. Wow. Okay. Where were we? Yeah, Valençay from the centre of the Loire. Um, nice looking bottle, delicious wine. I don't know what to say other than if you like Bordeaux Blanc and you're paying about £12 or £13 for it, this is what you're after. It's got a little splash of Chardonnay in there, which is really clever. And this is something that we see as a trick in Chevigny. I think Waitrose used to do a Chevigny, which was 90% Sauvignon, 10% Chardonnay. I don't know if they still do, but this is the same deal. Valençay, kind of call it Sancerre with a spatter of Chablis, okay? And well, that doesn't sound too bad, does it? But absolutely delicious. £6.50 a bottle. And then when it goes through the customs, you get another 15% off that. So let's call it what? Well, roughly £6. Okay. So there we are. That's the first wine of the day. Just want to show you a wine that I think was absolutely smashing value for money, and a wine that I would like to buy a box of 6 of when I go back next time. Let's do a red. By the way, these wines weren't picked by me. These were picked by Jerome and Olivier and Jérôme. Did I say Jerome and Jerome? Oh dear. Look, clearly I'm still ill. Okay, so Olivier and Jerome got together and chose which wines they would like to show us, just as a representative idea of the kind of things that the English might be interested in buying. Now, they used to be 90% English exposed. They used to be 90% English, 10% French. But being the clever couple of guys that they are, they've managed to retool and re-engineer and reface. So they're now about 70% French customers, and they're still doing very well. But you can imagine the struggle that Calais' been through with this. Our decision pretty much decimated a town. And I think we owe it to them to at least give them one more chance. Anyway, and this isn't changing the fortunes of independent wine merchants in the UK unless you do this every single week, which is not what I'm suggesting at all. And also, some of these wines are available in the UK. And indeed, if you're after one bottle, it makes absolutely zero sense to drive over there with a car, stay overnight, and come back for one bottle of wine. So yeah, sometimes if it's more expensive, it's still cheaper, if you know what I mean. Okay, so let's go for a red wine here. I think this wine looks very handsome, don't you? Bum, 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 bum. It's a big, dramatic, heavy bottle. This is the one from the Roussillon, from the Côte Catalan, the hills in the southwest of France. It's made at Domaine Lafarge. Lafarge, Jean-Marc Lafarge used to make a lot of very, very nice wines while I was working at Waitrose for us. And he made beautiful wines at laughably low prices. There was an entry-level wine called Winter Hill that we used to make, which was named after the John Lewis golf course. And Jean-Marc, through Mark Linton, Master Wine, bless him, um, he used to make those wines as an own label of sorts for Waitrose. It was the first kind, really. And the wines were just brilliant. And they won awards after awards. He used to sell us a Corbière, name escapes me, which was just to die for about £9. Anyway, he's gone to bigger and better things. And along with a few other people who have managed to consolidate what the Languedoc-Roussillon and the Occitanie, that big, huge area in the south of France, what it does, which is many, many things. Um, Along with Gerard Bertrand, very, very successful former rugby player, and indeed, of course, Laurent Miquel as well. He's up there with those guys that has really, really profited from the fruit basket that the Languedoc is, but also because he's intelligent and also in this particular case, an incisive winemaker. His wines are really, really good, and he makes wines that he knows are commercially adept, and he'll make wines that are quite big and so forth. But they've always got precision and freshness and balance. And this is the example of the wine we've got here. This is Lafarge Narassa Côte Catalan 2022. This is about 70%, I believe, Grenache and about 30% Syrah. It's probably made from some pretty old vines down there because what else are you going to do with them? It weighs in at a massive 15% alcohol. Now, if you're going to buy €1,000 of wine and bring it back and pay the duty, I recommend that if it's after February, you don't do this one because the way that the rules have changed is our duty goes up every time the alcohol in the wine goes up by 0.5%, which means that 15% is going to be far more heavily taxed than a wine if you bring in at 12.5%, for example. Um, Now, if you think that France actually is quite northerly and the wines in the Loire, particularly, certainly, and other areas, and fantastic wines as they are not going to be that high in alcohol. The value, if you're going to buy cases of wine in, either for you to drink over the year or whatever you plan to do with it, um, it's it's going to be makes much more sense if you bring in wines that are lower in alcohol after February, after the moratorium on tax changes. So this is a wine that looks very, very dark in colour, dark for a Grenache certainly. I love this wine actually. Very impressed by it. I was trying it. Big. Um, the wines of southern France, this is kind of near Perpignan, I think, are quite liquorous. They have that kind of sensation of eating a cherry chocolate when you're first time having alcoholic chocolate as a kid at Christmas. You go, ooh, that sounds. Oh, am I pissed? Have I had a whole shot of booze? No, but that the headiness is there. And I smell this, and I smell a lovely dark licorice smell, which is very familiar to me as being something like La Clap, maybe in the Côte de Languedoc. Um, has a lovely whole bunch quality. And that doesn't mean anything to a lot of you watching, but when you ferment wine with whole berries, you get a very interesting complex of spice, of garrigue. They always say that if you can see the Mediterranean from the vineyard, you get the smell of all the herbs that grow along the coast. And this wine has a little bit of that. Very much a hallmark of Lafarge's winemaking. You can feel the alcohol. I mean, it's not hurting me, but I can see that this is a wine. I can see it's Christmas. Do you know what I mean? So that's what it's like. It's unbelievably easy to drink because Grenache isn't particularly high in acid. Although this wine has been made in a lovely fresh way, I don't imagine that cuvées the extraction of the grapes was too long. Nor do I think that the wine was fermented very, very high in alcohol, in temperature. So there's a brightness and a freshness here that still remains, even though this wine is 2 or 3 years in now. Coats the mouth with lovely, soft, juicy fruits. This is great for kind of Christmas gamey things. Maybe a game pie, a terrine would be lovely with this. Saucisson would be lovely with this. Beef Wellington, out of the park. It would be absolutely fantastic with that. I know a lot of people love that at Christmas. And this wine does taste very, very grown up. I was just looking online earlier. I'm just going to check the prices again. Um, this wine isn't. This is available in the UK through a couple of mail order companies, um, and the price generally quoted. Let's have a look here. Is um, around the 18 to 19 pounds mark. I believe that a Calais-Vins, we bought it for about £11. So even though this wine's high in alcohol, and you can either get all that duty off, but even if you're paying the duty on this wine, it's probably be an extra £3. It'd be £14 odd against the £18 it would cost you to buy it online if you can find it at all as a single bottle. But also, you do get some of the VAT back when you go through customs. So it's still, obviously, it's still a great value wine. Even if you're buying a whole case of it, this is pretty fabulous stuff. Um, what would I say to the layman who likes their big wines from, let's say, Australia, particularly certainly the Barossa wines? This wine's quite Barossan and it's weirdly gentle, soft, round, Grenache kind of weight, and I think that it's weird that the way the trends are going in the Barossa Valley with very old vine Grenache, and the trends in the south of France are kind of meeting in the middle somewhere. And this is a wine that, if you're paying £11, certainly would be the match of any Chateauneuf de Pape up to about 28, 29, £30, I would say. So if you're paying 11 quid for it, then it's an absolute flipping bargain, frankly. Delicious, chin chin, right? So one sexy white, one sexy red. It is Christmas after all, so let's have a sexy pudding. Okay, this is a wine that sommeliers and sommeliers will be very familiar with. It's from an estate called, you see at the top there, Chateau Bouscassé. It's called Les Larmes Célestes, and it's from a very unusual appellation. Let's see if you can actually read this. It's underneath the 2018. It says Pachonc Muelle Appellation Pachonc de Vic-Bill Contrôlé. See, it's all funny words. Gascon, it's Gascony, right? So they have their own kind of weird, stupid language down there, back around the Roi du Soleil times, Henry V times, and all that. Um, Pachon de Vic-Bill is about 50 miles south of a place which is very regal and very much the capital of Gascony, which is Jurançon. And Jurançon wines can be made into beautiful, age-worthy, delicious dry white wines, or they're allowed to be left on the vine, the grapes left on the vine, to produce wonderful sweet wines. And it was, in fact, Jurançon matched with the local goose foie gras that created the trend, if you like, or the fashion, or woke people up to the fact that really greasy liver and high acid, beautifully balanced, rich sweet wines work very well together. So foie gras and sauterne are a very common match. But frankly, foie gras and a wine that hasn't gone through botrytis, that is only a late picked wine, I think is a better choice. And this is made by the ubiquitous genius Alain Brumont. Very, very few wine regions, entire wine regions, depend on the reputation of one man. One you could argue after the Second World War, which is definitely the case, was Georges de Boeuf in Beaujolais. Without him, who knows if that region would even exist these days. And you've got Alain Brumont in the area around here. There's Madiran, which is famous for red wines. And you've got Pachon de Vicqueville for dessert wines and Jurançon for dry and sweet whites. What great varieties? Well, probably won't be that familiar with them, but the three most important varieties, which have to make up 60% of any Pachon wine, are Gros Manseng or Manseng, big, and Petit Manseng, smaller grape version of the same variety, and also Petit Corbu. And there are a couple of other varieties, a Rufiac, and the other one is and Sauvignon Blanc, which are top dressers you can add for freshness if you're making a crisp dry white. But this wine isn't a crisp dry white, it's a dessert wine. 2018. It was always the case. If you didn't know wine in France, when I first started out when I was 19, I was like, there was a tip that I gave people. I said, go into a restaurant in France and you will find in the wines of the southwest of France, just below Bordeaux, the Tanats, that's the great variety it's made from, of Madiran, made by Alain Brumont. And there was always a wine called Chateau Montus, which is his top wine, which was pennies in those days. I mean, you could buy that for 15 euros in a Michelin-starred restaurant back in the day. And but Bousse Cassé, which was the sort of like the sort of like the bargain version, was even less than that. And even to this day, if you go to restaurants in France, you'll find those wines on restaurants. And if you're having a pavé with frites or a steak au poivre, you really can't improve your choice over a bottle of Alain Brumont's Tanat from either Montus or Bouscassé or maybe one of his lesser known wines now. But it's the same when it comes to his whites as well. So this is Pacheronk, another thing that Alain Brumont is globally famous for, and this is from indeed Chateau Bouscasse. I have to put some details down because these are very, very uncomfortable French words, aren't they? Anyway, let's have a look at this. So, I studied winemaking in Bordeaux, and I was very poor when I was there. And I would literally count my shekels together so I could go out in the afternoon to the local vinotheque and maybe try a couple of wines, like €1 a glass. And that was my pocket money done for the week. But every now and then you'd find lovely sweet wine because where I was staying, which is on the banks of the Garonne, south of the river in Outre-mer, was a region which was then basically known as Premier Côte de Bordeaux. It's all changed a little now, but there were sweet wines along that barrier. Premier Côte de Bordeaux was known as the sort of like the bucket of swill for sweet wines made in the region, and then you had Lupiac and Saint Croix du Mont. Um, I think one mistake escapes me, but those two were the key ones on that side of the river. And you taste them, think these wines are delicious, and then you ask people why are they not more famous? They say, well, that's because the wines in Sauternes over the river are that much more intense and more powerful. They have more prestige, so it's easy to sell a £25 bottle of that than it is to sell a £4 bottle of this. I didn't make any sense to me. Anyway, this is where we're dealing. We're dealing in wine which should be more expensive anyway, which you can buy this very wine from. And let's make no mistake and make no bones about this. The Whiskey Exchange has an amazing wine range, thankfully, because Dawn Davis, Master of Wine, amazing ex-sommelier. She has an amazing wine range and she's got an amazing palate. And the wines are very, very well priced. They're price competitive to any multiple high street retailer. She sells this very wine in this bottle, which is absolutely delicious. It's a perfect Christmas wine to go with foie gras. And I think it's on the shelf for about £18.50 for a half-litre bottle, which is certainly enough for about 8 people. You don't need much that goes around because it's very intense. Smell it? Taste, oh, it's almost what I would call in French a vin tendre, which is it's not really about the sweetness, it's about the softness and generousness of it. And this wine doesn't taste like it's much more than maybe 50 grams of sugar. It's probably too much, about 40 grams. Maybe it's more, but it's very long, very full. It has a wonderful taste of peaches and apricots and all those stone fruits that I love so much. It's an absolute banger. Right, what happens if you go to Calais-Vins and buy it? Well, it's not $18.99 a bottle, which is a Whiskey Exchange, which frankly, by the way, Dawn, I think is a very good price. No, it's €8. It's £7.50. So you're getting a tenner off it, then you're getting 15% off that. This is the kind of wine that you probably should actually buy if you're going to bring it over and actually pay the duty. It's only 12.5% alcohol, so it's not prohibitively high in alcohol. I'm not sure how the rules change with dessert wines, whether it's sweet has high potential alcohol. I don't know. But here we are. 3 wines from Calais. We bought them in the UK. We're probably looking at somewhere around £14 for the Valençay, I would say, maybe. You were probably looking at around £18 for the big red and a similar price for the very nice Christmas dessert wine here. So let's call that 37 quid, 47 quid, 51 quid for the 3, or go to Calais and you can buy it for 13, 50, 50, 23 quid, 24 quid. I mean, what do you want? Blood? I mean, I just make the point. This are 3 random wines which I didn't pick, and they're all very, very nice wines. They obviously know what they're doing. He's obviously got a palate, that man, Jerome. I'm very impressed by what he does. Um, so there you go. So this has been my last. You can get bored of it now, but this is my last moan about do try and check out Calais. And what could be more Christmassy than popping over there maybe next week and then spending a night over? And they've got the lights up now, and you have a nice like Christmassy dinner of warm, cozy, maybe some pigeon with a nice big heavy red in front of a fire. And you can buy all sorts of weird stuff. Check my my Facebook and my Instagram feed from this week. I've had a range of drinks which I'm posting every day. Cool shit from Calais, and their spirits mostly. But the stuff they have there is just defies belief, and it's just worth it just for the crack, in the Irish sense. So there you go. Allez Calais, and all who may sail in her. So see you next time.